The Rocket Book, Peter Newell, adapted by Jane Cadwallader. Copyright Ailey. There was nothing special about 15 Cherry Drive. It was a very normal house on a very normal street. There was a basement, an attic, and 5 floors in between. A different family lived on each floor. The people who lived in number 15 Cherry Drive didn't chat much, just good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or lovely weather we're having, or it looks like it'll rain today. Mr. George Popper was the janitor of number 15 Cherry Drive. He cleaned the floors and the stairs every day. He repaired the lights when they broke and repaired the water pipes when they leaked. Mr. Popper lived in the basement of 15 Cherry Drive, and he had a secret job. He was an inventor. He invented lots of wonderful things in his workshop. His favorite invention was a rocket made of gold and silver metal. He worked on it at night when all the families of 15 Cherry Drive were sleeping. Finally, one night, he finished his rocket. Mr. Popper was pleased. It was a beautiful rocket. But he was also very tired. He went out, shut the door, and went happily to bed. Mr. Popper had a son. His name was Michael. He was 15 years old with untidy curly blonde hair and a friendly smile. The day after his father finished the rocket, Michael came home from school early. Usually, his father was in the basement making dinner, but that day he was repairing something. Michael opened the door to his father's workshop and saw the rocket. He thought, let me light it and see what happens. So Michael went to the kitchen, got a match, and held it under the rocket. Mr. Richard Olive and Miss Betty Olive lived on the ground floor of 15 Cherry Drive. Betty was 84 and Richard was 85. They weren't very poor, but they weren't very rich either. At night, they liked to sit by the fireplace and have a snack. It was usually hot chocolate with marshmallows on top. But Richard was good at forgetting things. That morning, he went shopping, but he forgot to buy the matches. So no fire today. Oh my, what a wonderful fire! He was explaining to Betty about the matches, which she wasn't really happy about, when suddenly the rocket came up through the floor. As it went up, it lit the wood with a spark. Mrs. Sophia Martinez and her husband, Mr. Frank Martinez, lived on the first floor of 15 Cherry Drive. They had a daughter called Elena. Elena didn't live with them, but she was getting married. Sophia loved clothes and jewelry. She was thinking, I'm going to wear my blue and pink dress with my pink gloves and blue necklace to the wedding. But which hat should I choose? The pink and white striped hat with red flowers, or the orange and blue hat with green grapes? I just don't know, said Sophia. Frank, what do you think? Frank was looking up from his newspaper at his wife when suddenly the rocket came up through the floor. As it went up, it took away the orange and blue hat. Well, that's decided then, said Mr. and Mrs. Martinez, laughing. Katie Brown lived on the second floor of 15 Cherry Drive with her parents. Katie was good at sports. She played volleyball and golf and went snowboarding in the winter. But she wasn't good at homework, especially writing. My teacher has told us to write an exciting story, but I can't think of anything, thought Katie. Suddenly, the rocket came up through the floor. Katie looked at it in surprise. Where is that going? She thought. I think I have my story. Mrs. Sarah Williams and Mr. Harry Williams and their baby Robbie lived on the third floor of 15 Cherry Drive. Robbie was crying. Sarah showed Robbie his ball and his monster. Harry showed him his robot and his teddy, but baby Robbie didn't stop crying. Suddenly, the rocket came up through the floor. Robbie looked at the rocket and began to laugh. His parents began to laugh too. Miss Emma Gray wasn't married. She lived on the 4th floor of 15 Cherry Drive. She was an artist who painted wonderful pictures. She was thinking, something is missing. What can I paint here? When suddenly the rocket came up through the floor. Oh, what's that? A rocket! That's given me a good idea, said Emma. 4 steps to the right, then 4 steps forward. No, 4 steps to the right, then 4 steps to the left. Haruki and Kenzo were twins. They lived on the 5th floor of 15 Cherry Drive. They lived with their parents, but their mom was at the office and their dad was working at the hospital. Haruki and Kenzo loved listening to pop music and they were inventing a new dance, but they didn't agree. Suddenly, the rocket came up through the floor. Oh, let's use the rocket. How many steps to go right around the rocket? They danced around it in different directions. They were laughing. Where's the rocket going now? Asked Mr. Martinez. They all raced up to the attic to see what happened. In the attic, they found Mr. Popper next to a big ice cream machine. The rocket stopped in the ice cream machine. The top of the rocket was coming out of the top of the machine, and some steam was coming out of the bottom. Everyone cheered, "Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!" Would you like an ice cream? Asked Mr. Popper. There's chocolate chip, strawberry, or cookies and cream. Yummy, said Kenzo. That ice cream looks good. It makes me hungry. Everyone laughed and they had an ice cream together. What a great day, said Katie. Let's call it Rocket Day and have a party every year, said Mrs. Oliver. That's a fantastic idea, said Emma. We'll do our rocket dance, said Kenzo and Haruki. And we'll eat ice cream, said Michael. The rocket changed the people at 15 Cherry Drive. Now they chatted to each other every day. Mrs. Williams checked Mr. and Mrs. Olive had matches for their fireplace. Katie, Mr. Olive, and Mr. Martinez helped to watch baby Robbie. Michael, Kenzo, and Haruki gave Emma ideas for her paintings. All in all, it was a much happier house. And every year they had the Rocket Day party.